Delta 14 is checking in.
Good morning, Councillor Fortini. You're coming through loud and clear.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, lovely. All good, all good.
Councillor Keenan just checking in, not sure if you can hear me or not.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan. You're coming through loud and clear.
Okay, good morning, everyone. As we begin today's meeting, we would like to acknowledge that we are gathering here today on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, and before them the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Huron, and Wendat. We also acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and other global Indigenous people that now call Brampton their home. We are honored to live, work, and enjoy this land. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our meeting of Brampton's Committee of Council. All members are present here today, with a few members online.
Thank you. Online we have Councillors Keenan and Fortini currently.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And with that, our next item is approval of the agenda. Do any members wish to add a business item to today's agenda? I see one here from Mayor Brown. Although I don't see him here, but he would like to add an item 12.3, a discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown regarding rental fees for the Peel Regional Police Community Ball Hockey Cup at Century Gardens for June 20th and 21st, 2024.
If another member will take carriage of that, we can add it.
Yep.
Okay.
That's good. Missed that.
In addition, we have had one request for a delegation in relation to item 10.2.2 that was received outside of the window of opportunity. It's up to council or committee if you'd wish to add that as a delegation today. That's from Sylvia Roberts.
If everybody on council is good with that, okay?
And that would be item 6.8.
That's good.
And agenda is amended.
Perfect, thank you. So we have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Singh to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you, and that motion carries. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act for any matter to be considered on today's agenda? Seeing none, the clerk will so note for the meeting minutes. Committee, as part of our consent motion process, I will read each agenda item that is subject to the consent motion, and any member may verbally identify any item to be held for debate during the meeting. Any item not held for debate will be considered as part of the consent motion and voted on for approval. The items are listed as follows. 7.1, staff update regarding government relations matter. Consent. Item 9.2.1, staff report regarding economic development, memorandums of understanding. Held by Councillor Medeiros. 9.4.1, correspondence from Carrie, the chair of Downtown Brampton BIA, regarding the resignation of Downtown Brampton BIA board member. In consent. 9.4.2, the same correspondence but regarding new members of the Downtown Brampton BIA board. In consent. Item 10.2.1, staff report regarding capital project financial status report, Q4 of 2023. In consent. Item 10.2.2, staff report regarding 2023 year-end reserve report. In consent. Item 10.2.3, staff report regarding 2023 year-end investment report.
The delegation, wasn't that about?
I think that's 10.2.4.
10.2.2.
Yeah, that was.
So
Sorry.
we'll hold that one for the delegation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Singh. That's 10.2.2 is held for delegations. 10.2.3 is in consent. 10.2.4, staff report regarding 2023 year-end operating budget report is in consent. 11.2.1, staff report regarding budget amendment for developer reimbursement for the construction of Rivermont Road from Brasstown Valley Trail to Dalbady Drive, Ward 6. In consent. Item 11.2.2, staff report regarding budget amendment for developer reimbursement for the construction of Rivermont Road from Embleton Road to Heritage Road, Ward 6. In consent. Item 12.3.1, minutes of the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame Committee, May 9th, 2024. In consent. Item 12.3.2 is the added item from Mayor Brown, which is held for discussion. Item in closed session items 15.1 will be held because there's a verbal update, and item 15.2, open meeting exception under section 239(2)(e) and F of the Municipal Act 2001. That is in consent. And clerk, if you can summarize those items that are held by members for consideration.
Thank you. We'll have one announcement, 8 items of delegation, and in terms of reports, we have still on the agenda item 9.2.1, a staff report, economic development memorandums of understanding. Report number 10.2.2, staff report 2023 year-end reserve report, and added item 12.3.2, a discussion at the request of Mayor Brown, carried by Deputy Mayor Singh, rental fees for Ontario Municipal Memorial Fund Ball Hockey Tournament, Century Gardens, June 17th and 18th, as well as item 15.1 in closed session will be dealt with at the end of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. I have a motion moved by Councillor Broad to approve the consent motion. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you, and that motion carries. Moving on to announcements. Our only announcement today is 5.1, announcement for 2024 Business Employer Survey launch. I am the councillor sponsor for this announcement, and Paul Aldinate, the expediter from Economic Development, will make this announcement. Welcome, Paul. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of council. I'm here this morning to announce the beginning of this year's employer survey led by the Economic Development Office. We invite businesses to fill in the employer survey as it allows the City of Brampton to collect accurate information for the Business Brampton directory. Our survey will run from May to August, and at the end we will prepare a summary of the findings and post it on the city's website. Growing the directory benefits both the City of Brampton and local businesses. The survey collects key economic indicators about the size, health, and distribution of Brampton businesses. This survey and the resulting interactions allow the city to identify opportunities for investment and employment, understand whether businesses are growing or struggling, and better evaluate the economic landscape and vitality of Brampton. By filling out the employer survey, businesses benefit from being listed on the Brampton Business Directory and becoming discoverable to investors and consumers around the world. A robust business directory supports the economy overall. It enables the city to relay essential business information pertaining to specific business sectors, such as training, financial incentives, and other support. Contact information also allows the city to engage business owners on municipal matters that could impact business operations. The employer survey complements the information we receive in our day-to-day interactions with businesses, as we are not always able to visit or get to know all the businesses in Brampton. There are some 100,000 plus businesses registered in Brampton. We've hired 2 students this year to help us out with this exercise and conduct the survey and analyze the results. Taminder Pabla and Aiden Wiggins, who are joining us today in the audience. They will have their t-shirts, their phones, their work badges, brochures when visiting in person. We only ask that when you're interacting, we only ask council, when you're interacting with businesses in your day-to-day activities, that you can draw their attention towards the business survey. In conclusion, we thank you for the opportunity to make this announcement and provide some visibility on the employer survey for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul, for that announcement. I think that's wonderful. It's always good to do a pulse check on our businesses and see what they need. I also see that we have in the audience a lot of our summer interns. So welcome to City Hall, welcome to Council Chambers, and good morning to you all. Thank you once again, Paul, for that announcement. That concludes our announcements for today. Moving on to public delegations, our first delegation item is 6.1, delegation from Anna Gonzalez, event organizer, regarding request for financial support for Colombian Independence Day. Welcome, Anna. Good morning, Anna. You have up to 5 minutes today.
Good morning. How are you? My name is Anna Gonzalez. I'm with the Colombian Independence Day. We had an event last year, and it was a beautiful success at Rosalia Park. Now, this year, Rosalia Park is under construction, so we're going to have it here at Ken Williams Park. And hopefully, there's going to be a lot of success again. And I just wanted to know if I could just have a little bit of financial support, because I'm doing it by myself.
Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you through Mr. Chair. Thank you for your delegation. I'm happy to refer to staff and work out the details of what type of support you're doing, and if we have a program that we can provide, or what they did last year. I'm not sure.
It was at Rosalia Park, and I came over here and I applied for the park, and so we're having it here. So it's just like for getting more stuff for things for the kids, and a little bit more than what we did last year.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure if staff maybe want to advise, but for us to hash this out, it's probably easier just to refer to staff and speak with them to see what type of supports and bring it back to council.
Sure.
Through the chair to Councilor Medeiros, absolutely. We can look at the fees for Ken Williams Square, which I think resides in Public Works, versus Rosalie Park, which resides in Parks, and bring back an update to council.
Sounds good. Happy to refer it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Medeiros, and thank you to the delegate. So with that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Medeiros to refer this delegation back to staff. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you, and that motion carries. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you very much.
Our next delegation item is 6.2, delegation from Michael Vickers, Executive Director from the Brampton Arts Organization, regarding BOW's 2023 annual report and updates. Welcome, Michael.
Morning, everyone. Through the chair, if I may please request just a very short time extension. We have a short video that we'd like to share at the end. And
I think we should be good with that. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much. Just wait for our PowerPoint. Good morning, council members. I'm Michael Vickers, Executive Director of the Brampton Arts Organization. I'd just like to say, firstly, thank you for the opportunity to share our 2023 annual report and share some of the impact that we've made in Brampton over the last year and highlight some of the new initiatives for this upcoming year. A special thank you to Councillor Tour, our council representative, and Councillor Santos, who previously supported us through our incubation, along with our small but mighty dedicated staff team. We're just sitting over there, along with our wonderful board of directors. We continue to work very closely with city staff, from cultural services and the Brampton On Stage team to the events, tourism, and equity office, all of the folks in economic development, and we have a wonderful, close working relationship to better serve our city. Next slide, please. As our report details, 2023 was a milestone year as we successfully incorporated it as a nonprofit and confirmed our transition to independence and support for the arts sector for the coming years. A special thank you also to Chief Boyce and Kelly Stahl for their ongoing work and collaboration. Last year, we increased our audiences even further, doubled our reach across social media and marketing efforts, hosted over 90 free events for the community, developed a new strategic plan for our years ahead, and supported and showcased more Brampton artists than ever before. Next slide, please. Everything we do at BOW is driven by the community, but also by research data. As the report details, we are connecting Brampton's creative community, but also providing new opportunities for employment and supporting the local economy, getting Brampton talent showcased and paid for their work. We're also improving well-being, with many participants saying we not only increase their media attention and exposure, but help them make more money from their art and improve their health and well-being across the city. Next slide, please. BOW is back one slide, please. BOW is teaching local artists and arts organizations new skills for the creative economy, connecting them to opportunities, getting them on more stages, and building their connections locally and beyond. Whether it's a special artist residency at the library, selling work at one of our various markets, recording music in our office, or taking one of our professional development intensives, we are building Brampton through the arts. Recognizing our efforts, next slide please. The Brampton Board of Trade recently honored our organization with a Community Impact Award at the Business Excellence Awards, acknowledging the impact we've had in a very short amount of time. Next slide, please. Lastly, looking ahead, we have a very busy 2024 full of new resources, including a brand new website, our ongoing work on the new Experience Brampton calendar with the tourism team, expanded open studio days, new programs for newcomers and Indigenous artists, and working with the Peel District School Board on ways to get more artists into classrooms to build the next generation of artists here in Brampton. A huge thank you on behalf of the local arts community for this council's continued support for the arts. The impact of our work is best told, though, through the stories of some of the folks that we serve, and we'd like to end with just a short video from some of the artists that we've been serving.
Through this residency, I got to really understand the importance of community involvement in projects that I want to push forward in my future work.
Another thing that I really appreciate is the fact that they promote us to other people, including the city. So they really legitimize what we do as artists, and they really give us the opportunity to grow as artists.
One of my favorite events hosted by BOW is their monthly open studio, which is an amazing experience. We get to meet artists around the area. We spent the whole entire day creating art with supplies that they provide to us.
As a newcomer to Canada, BOW has given a kind of direction to continue my passion as an artist, kind of evolved me as a person in Canada. It has brought a sense of belongingness that I'm a creative person, still pursuing my art and practice with the same passion.
But BOW has been making a lot of inroads with the culture and arts and culture here in Brampton. And I just thank you, and I hope you support arts community for BOW and for Visual Arts Brampton.
And in March of this year, we were actually fortunate enough to be awarded a grant. So we thank Michael and the BOW team for doing that reference for us. And we're looking forward to everything that the BOW is planning in their strategic direction, because we know it's going to be good for Brampton. We know it's going to be good for other artists, whether they're professional or whether they're amateur.
Thank you, Michael. Do any members of council have any questions? Seeing none, I just want to say thank you, Michael. Has been an incredible year. The amount of work you get done in one calendar year is it's amazing. It's one thing to celebrate artists, but a whole different mission to grow them, to find them, to give them that space, and your team does a fantastic job doing that. Especially with the open nights that you have, where you see artists from all over the city get together and they're able to celebrate their own artwork. And not just art, but artists are apparently really good at doing annual reports. It's a fantastic report. I think I said this last year too. I wish every report looks like this. So readable, so fun to read. So thank you so much for doing this. And I think Deputy Mayor Singh suggested that we do a photo with members of BOW that are present here today.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'll have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Singh to receive this delegation as well. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you once again, Michael. And our next delegation item is item 6.3. It's a delegation from Glenn McClellan, President, and Ron Evans, Treasurer of the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club, regarding request to reinstate funding for the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. Welcome, Glenn and Ron, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Glenn McClellan. I'm the president of the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. And as mentioned, I'm accompanied here with Ron Evans, who's the treasurer of the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. My objective in addressing you this morning is to request the reestablishment of the funding partnership once shared between the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club and the City of Brampton. This funding flowed through the Heritage Fund, which was canceled 2 terms ago, thus ending funding to the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. Why are we deserving of this funding? Many sports organizations have come and gone in the city's 50-year history. Battalion, Beast, Thunder. The only constant, the only sports club for all 50 years is the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. In fact, we date back to 1871, being the oldest lacrosse club in the world. Some background on the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club is one, we are a not-for-profit community-based sports organization run by volunteers and supported by community partners, not run by an individual or corporation like Battalion or Beast. You may be aware that our team was almost lost 3 years ago. The community and city rallied together to save our storied franchise. With a fresh executive, we are moving forward. Sometimes you don't know what you have until someone tries to take it away from you. The BELC is an extension of the Brampton Minor Lacrosse program. Graduating players from the BMLA move to the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club, which is comprised of a Junior B, Junior A, Senior, and Major Field programs. The key here is we are community-based teams. Our teams are made up of 85% local talent, City of Brampton residents. BMLA and BALC have produced many acclaimed lacrosse players over the years. I had the privilege of co-hosting the Brampton Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony. The examination of the Hall's membership reveals a solid core of Excelsiors, only to be added to in the future. Brampton Excelsiors have represented the cities provincially, nationally, and on the world stage. Promotion of athletes to universities in the US and Canada, the National Lacrosse League, the Professional Outdoor Lacrosse League, and significant contributions on World Championship stage. But the key is we are a sport for all demographics, no age barriers, no racial barriers, cost-effective and affordable at all levels for all ages. Before I move on, I said we also serve the community as goodwill ambassadors, supporting the Peel Police and Fire, Caribram, Regeneration, Indigenous groups, Boys and Girls Club, Algoma University, and more. A quick story on how we serve in the community. 2 years ago, Brampton hosted the Junior B National Championship, which is called the Founders Cup. Mayor Brown and I were at the opening ceremonies to officially welcome all teams and families from across Canada. The keynote speaker, not to take away from Mayor Brown or myself, was Dan Dawson, an Excelsior alumnus and all-time point leader in professional lacrosse. Dan created a little bit of stress as he advised that he was running late, but assured us he'd be there. Dan showed up just in time for his fantastic keynote address. He was dressed in his fire uniform and arrived with his fellow firefighting team in tow. The reason he was running late, he was extinguishing a major fire on the 407 which had spread to the Brampton Golf Club. Character and commitment personified. Along with hosting the Junior B Championship, just previously mentioned, in recent years we have hosted 2 Junior A National Championships, Minto Cups, 5 Major Series Senior A Championships, which are Man Cups, and all of these providing significant revenue to the city of Brampton. Prior to the funding being stopped, we experienced many successes on the floor. We were a dynasty. 2 Junior A and Minto Cup championships, 10 Senior A Ontario championships, which were consecutive, 5 Man Cups, which are the national championships, to just emphasize a few of those. The BMLA and BELC have received support from the city in the form of a venue to produce local lacrosse players, and that was being Memorial Arena being designated a year-round facility. Build it and they will come, and yes, they have. This is a key as we have one of the strongest minor programs in the country, excelling at Canada's national sport at all levels. This feeds the Brampton Excelsior Lacrosse Club. We need to continue to move forward, and this is why we are seeking a financial partner in the city of Brampton. And what are we seeking? BELC is seeking to reestablish the financial partnership previously shared with the city of Brampton. We are requesting a 5-year commitment starting at $40,000. Each year, the BELC will provide a detailed accounting of how the funds have been deployed to grow our community-based, not-for-profit legacy sports franchise. Thank you for your time this morning. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Glenn, for that delegation. I have on the board Councilor Medeiros.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for coming here today. I guess my number one, my first question, understanding that delegations, I did prepare a motion. I do see Mayor Brown's after. With that said, Councillor Keenan and myself are very proud to have Memorial Arena in our ward, and we know the passion, the mecca of lacrosse is in our area, and we're so proud of it. Can you explain the importance of that funding gap to council? Because again, when we made changes, it was try to provide more equitable opportunity, but this is an example. Sometimes when we try to help some, we inadvertently harm others. And so I think it's a very sensible sort of ask from your part, but you can maybe speak to the importance of that funding difference and why you think it's important for us to reinstate that fund.
I think the funding difference is to reestablish for a number of years, since, as we say, going back a couple of terms, the Excelsiors haven't been at the forefront of the Brampton community. And we, sure, we could use it to help market the program, to work with communities, to reestablish connections with that community and bring people back to the arena and to continue to support our teams. Also, it can help with that marketing and getting more people in the arena to keep a lot of our key players in the area with a proud franchise. There's no question about it. I've seen with the Sports Hall of Fame, we're very proud of the soccer program where we had, I think it was 6 of the players were represented for Brampton. We have the same thing with our Excelsiors playing on World Championships. The best player in the world right now at the field is Jeffrey Teat. Okay, probably Kyle Rubish just won another award as a Brampton player, but they're not able to stay here because of a lot of the, we need to build the profile of the Excelsiors even more and get it back to its historic past.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, no, and that's perfect. And someone who wasn't, I guess, exposed to the sport early on. When I came on council, I really understood the history, the heritage, and the importance to the city. And really, when I travel outside the city, when we talk about sports in Brampton, lacrosse is always on the forefront. So thank you for everything. I guess, Mayor Brown, I do have a motion that I was just going to have referred to staff, but I'll wait for the mayor's comments and then after go from there.
Thank you, Councilor Medeiros and Mayor Brown. Thank you, and thank you for being here today.
Obviously, as Councilor Medeiros said, and Councilor Tour, lacrosse has an incredible history in Brampton, and I'm proud to be a lacrosse parent. I had Theodore out last night at Memorial Arena. And I love how you've embraced Memorial Arena. Ron will know that a few years ago, I had probably welts on me from the hockey community upset that they lost Memorial Arena, but I knew we had the capacity for hockey around the city to find space in other arenas where lacrosse didn't have a home. And last time I checked with Commissioner Boyce, the usage rate is in I think the 90% range, which is showing that if you build it, they will come, and you're building an environment for lacrosse to grow and flourish. And what I love, and I've seen through my own insights, is there's just so many kids out there. So many young kids playing lacrosse of all ages, male and female, and it's beautiful to see that building buzzing with activity. It's a little hot. Maybe we'll have to work on some air conditioning there, Commissioner Boyce. But I know you have a passion for lacrosse, and we want to help you build it. At the time, and I had a chance to talk with Ron about this, when this was canceled by, I think it was Linda Jeffrey at the time, when they canceled the Heritage Fund, part of the rationale was the other sports were complaining that it wasn't equitable, that Brampton is diverse, recreation is diverse, and you can't have certain sports will be the only ones eligible. But there's not only one way to solve a problem. And I know with additional resources, you can expose lacrosse to more kids in our community. And that's a great thing. Councillor Santos, who's probably listening in, knows that every recreation speech I give, I talk about we have an obligation to encourage active, healthy lifestyles. Doesn't matter what sport you love. I want to support it because we have childhood obesity rates that are rising in Canada. We've got challenges with diabetes. One of the best gifts we can give to our healthcare system is to encourage lifestyles that don't result in people having to go to the hospital and having a bunch of kids running around. When Theo finished his lacrosse, he was sweating. It's a great workout. This is great for physical health, and so I want to support you. And what I was thinking is, and Glenn, I think we mentioned it briefly, there's a tourism aspect here. There is, throughout the year, there's a number of tournaments you host that bring significant sports tourism to our city, where it's just, you can't find a parking spot. And maybe it's not the Heritage Fund that was canceled for the reasons that I mentioned before, but we have Advanced Brampton, we've got tourism funding that might be the right vehicles to help with the shortfall, because the shortfall is not significant. I think you mentioned, Ron, it was $40,000? $40,000 in the overall recreation budget is a very small amount, but I think for members of council, it's just, we want to be equitable to all sports and make sure that we really push forward all sports. And so when Councillor Power brought a group in to talk about football and boxing, we're looking at ways to be creative to support them. Right now, we're working very closely with Councillor Singh, Tour, and Brar to have our own Kabaddi facility, because you see that 15,000 people come out to some of these matches. We just had the box soccer announcement with Atiba, and that's going to be buzzing with activity with kids soccer. I was talking to Councillor Medeiros and Keenan about maybe there's an example with Jonathan Osorio who might want to do the same thing. And so we're always looking at ways to expand recreation, but in a manner that we're agnostic to what sport you love. We just want to support all sports in Brampton. And so maybe the wording, and it was Councillor Keenan who suggested to me that Advanced Brampton might be the best tool. If we could refer this back to staff to come back to council as quickly as possible. I also chair our budget process, so I know we can find the funds. I know we can help you fix this gap. I just want to make sure it's not done in a manner that would bring up old wounds where we pit sports against sports. This is not about pitting sports against sports. This is not about having a fund that only one sport can qualify for. This is about supporting all kids' sports. And so if the language we could put forward would be just to report back to staff on advance Brampton funding or other funding mechanisms that may be appropriate, and do so as quickly as possible, so that maybe before the summer recess, so we can get you some certainty in how you can continue to grow the sport. And if you haven't been in Memorial Arena any weeknight, it's incredible. Come and see it. I just love how this council is uplifting youth sports. I was at the tennis club on the weekend, and it was just a sea of kids too. Another initiative that that we support and completely diverse. I just love how we're really leaning into sports. So if that works, Councilor Medeiros and Councilor Keenan, I know this was important to you as well, then I think we could find out how we do this very quickly.
I just want to add just one thing. In the overall funding, we've earmarked at least 25% of the funding we're requesting strictly with marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing the sport,
Yeah.
marketing our legacy, and really marketing the community as well, and how important Brampton Excelsiors are and have been to the community. So it's not just about, we want money to buy new sticks. It's we want to rebrand our organization to fall in line with the culture, with the current culture in Brampton.
Thank you, Ron, and thank you, Mayor Brown. I have Councilor Medeiros on the board as well, followed by Councilor Keenan.
Yeah, thank you through Mr. Chair. Yeah, since there's already direction from the mayor, because I had prepared a motion, but essentially it's essentially same thing. Staff can come back with some form of identifying either looking at the Heritage Fund or finding another mechanism. So it's essentially the same thing. So, okay, I'm fine.
Thank you, Councilor Medeiros and Councilor Keenan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, gentlemen, for coming in today. I just want to thank Councilor Medeiros and Mayor Brown for, helping along in this with, making sure that we can get this funding. For the first time, my daughter tried lacrosse and absolutely fell in love with it, and to watch, now pushing the females into lacrosse and really trying to expose that, for me, has been incredible as a dad to watch. And I'm obviously very supportive of any way we can, get that funding. So I look forward to this coming back and, seeing what we can do to make sure that we continue to push it forward. I am pretty involved now with the lacrosse side. I did sponsor one of the youth teams through my local business. And they've invited me out, sent me their schedule, so be looking for me in the stands for sure this season. So I look forward to everyone coming back. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Keenan. And with that, committee, the motions on the screen moved by Mayor Brown to refer this to staff for consideration. All in favor?
I'm happy to be moved by the ward councillors.
Sure. So it can be moved by Councilor Medeiros and Councilor Keenan. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you, Glenn and Ron.
Thank you.
Our next item is item 6.4, a delegation from representatives of the Ontario Contractors Association regarding contractor requirements and standards. It's a big delegation here. I see Sukhwinder Kalsi, Satinder Sohi, Jagtar Kalsi, Amar Singh, Devinder Singh Sands, Jay Kamal, and Gurjot Singh Gill. And the rest of the members too. If I missed your name, whoever's part of the delegation, please come forward.
Good morning, everyone. So first of all, I'm going to introduce our association. It's a non-profit organization created by a small group of contractors. Now we are over 200 plus members now. And now our agenda is regards we need licensing for the contractors, and which should be approved by city. And for this, there are eligible conditions for this. The businesses, corporation should be registered with Ontario. And secondly, liability insurances and at least 3 years working experiences. And other formalities are like we have paperwork with this. So each of us one by one can explain our ideas. You can go ahead.
So in the city of Brampton, there's a lot of unlicensed contractors that are doing work, and this is to help protect the residents and businesses of Brampton. There's more enforcement with the city inspectors, which is great, but I think that a lot of unlicensed and unqualified contractors are doing basements and basically ripping off people, the residents of Brampton. I think maybe that Brampton should initiate something that they have to be licensed through the city, the contractors. I'm a plumbing contractor, I have a license, and to do work in the city, you have to have a license. But to be a general contractor, they don't need anything. And some of the stuff that we see is, like, we go back to fix after, it's really bad. Like, the inspectors, if Brampton did do a great job, first name basis with a lot of them. But maybe the city has to crack down on some way to try and help the residents, or it's gonna be the Wild West out there. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to the delegation. Have Deputy Mayor Singh on the board.
Thank you, and I just want to thank the Ontario Contractors Association, for organizing. I didn't know there was an Ontario Contractors Association when I had our meeting. And secondly, for making this suggestion. It's something I have been wrestling with. I know we've talked about this, but we weren't certain how the contractors, what their feedback would be like, and the community at large. We did something similar for driveway paving companies a few years ago, and that was quite tenseful on council. But we came forward with a successful plan, and that's worked out quite well. And contracting was something I was interested in because of the complaints I've heard, like you're highlighting, not just from the city side, but also the resident side.
Yeah, you have to protect the residents.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's sort of why I'm interested in this, because many situations they've had to rehire contractors. There's issues of payment, and there's always two sides of the story, but some of them were pretty bad and very one-sided. And so it's something definitely I am interested in looking at. I know we've actually talked about this many times, so that's why I'm referring to Councillor Tour. And he's also interested in it. So first of all, I want to thank you for coming forward. And I want to ask our Commissioner of Planning, because I had the opportunity to run by this with him during our planning agenda review. If you had any comments to make, because I also know this was on your radar as well.
Through the chair, through to you, Deputy Mayor Singh. First of all, thanks very much for the delegation coming in, and appreciate the shout out to our building inspectors. I believe Randy Brown.
Very good. Very good.
Randy Brown, our manager of inspections, reached out to one of you to talk, and this delegation is quite timely. It's actually music to my ears, because we're planning on bringing forward a report on licensing programs for contractors in the city, especially now with all of the programs around RRL, the issue around driveway widenings that we're going to be grappling with. This is very timely. So, and I have actually been on site with some of the inspectors and seen some of the issues that you're facing with. So, anything we can do to work to bring those, for lack of better words, bad actors into compliance, to get them into a licensed program, I think will not only be better for the residents, but be better for all of our taxpayers, because at the end of the day, it's less time that enforcement has to do repeat calls back and forth to the same address. So we can commit to bringing a report back before the fall session on this matter, and then taking direction from council at that point.
Okay, and would that report entail a way forward, or will there have to be an additional motion at that point?
Through the chair, our intention is to bring a report back with a bit of a roadmap on a way forward as to how we can get unlicensed contractors operating in the city into a licensed program.
Okay. The only additional suggestion I would add, if you have your cards on you, if you could give it to the Ontario Contractors Association, and then maybe before the report run one sort of round table just to get their feedback, so we get a comprehensive plan.
Yeah, through the chair, we'll take that as direction and work with this group to facilitate a bit of a industry roundtable to workshop the pain points they're feeling and make sure that they're captured in our report.
Okay, perfect. So I'll put a motion forward to refer this back to staff. Thank you to the Contractors Association for coming.
Thank you, and thank you, Commissioner Ganesh, for those comments as well. Just to add to this a little bit, the number one complaint we always hear when then something's gone wrong and an inspector shows up and says, something is not in compliance, whether it's your driveway, your deck, your fence, whatever the case may be, most cases residents don't know that what they did was beyond the bylaws. And it's a contractor that in that case had misled them. and cause that problem. So we're hoping to address that issue, and I look forward to this report as well. So you have the motion on the screen, moved by Deputy Mayor Singh, to refer this delegation to staff for a report. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you, and that motion carries. Thank you once again for coming here today. Our next delegation item is item 6.5, a delegation from Louisa and Jim Mocon and Neil Davis on behalf of the Mocon family regarding request to add Mocon to the approved street name registry for the use within subdivision 21T 20011B OZS 2020-0036, location of the former Mocon greenhouses. Welcome, Neil. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, and I'll be the only one speaking. Not surprising if you know Jim and Louisa. They are not terribly comfortable being up here, but they also find it very difficult to try and speak about themselves and what they have done for this community, and so I'm quite honored, quite frankly, to be able to do that on their behalf. So just a little background. Until recently, Jim and Louisa were the owner of the property at 1879 Queen Street West on the south side, known by the community as Mocon Greenhouses. And they sold that property to Andren Aronville, and Andren Aronville is here today. Andren Aronville is moving through the process to registration of the subdivision that is now going on the Mocon property, formerly Mocon property. And one of the things that was unfamiliar to me, but I've become a little more familiar, is the naming of streets. And part of the understanding when Andren bought the property was to try and recognize the Mocon family in the naming of streets. And so that is why Andren is here supporting the request. And so let me put the request before you. That the name Mocon be added to the approved street name registry. The particular street is the street coming in from Queen Street, the principal street coming into the subdivision. And I'm going to make a second request that is not in the delegation, but it came up because there had been an intention to name another street after Luis's family, Santos. That name is unavailable under the name registry. You can't even use SAN, as I understand it. There are too many conflicts. So an elegant solution is to name the park the Santos Mocon Park. That will come back before you, and instead of doing that again, I thought we might as well, if we could, deal with the request to name the park the Santos Mocon Park. And I'm advised that the name Mocon has cleared both Appeal and Brampton Registry, so the name is fine. It just needs to be added to the registry. And there's a certain urgency to get the name selected because when you register your plan, you must have named the streets. If we don't have the name on it, you then have to go through the process of renaming a street, and that's an awkward and expensive process and unnecessary. So why should you do it? I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on this, but Jim Mocon's family has had a long history in Brampton. His grandparents emigrated from Poland, settled in Brampton in 1912, where they acquired a farm located on English and Main Street. Jim's father was the youngest of 7 children and was born in Brampton in 1921. Together, Jim's father and family, Jim and Louisa, settled on Queen Street and ran the business well known in the community as Mocon Greenhouses. And I didn't know the Mocons till the last number of years, got to know them very well, and I feel honored to have come to know them. But I did know something about what they did, but didn't know who it was. And that was, we lived on Main Street, and then I'm on Fraser Avenue, and the hanging baskets all down Main Street and downtown, and Gage Park. My father would always comment, we do many things well in the city, but nothing better than how we do our flowers in this city. And it was the Mocon family that supplied those baskets and the flowers for Gage Park. And so not knowing them, it's just a privilege to now know who did that for this community. And when I looked at the sort of guideline that you use, selection criteria, there are a number of things in it that sort of identify with having this name recognized, because it has a direct relationship with, I'm reading from your selection criteria, direct relationship with the asset. It reflects the location of the asset, a unique community or neighborhood identifier. Clearly that's the case with the MoCon name in this community. It's in keeping with a specific theme that highlights and promotes industries that were prevalent in Brampton. Nurseries were fundamental to the growing of this city, and having the name MoCon associated with that, I think would be the right thing to do. The final thing, criteria, is to honor the significant contribution of an individual to the community. And significant is not defined, and it's your discretion at the end of the day. And I am speaking today, and as I said, quite pleased to do so, because they're uncomfortable speaking about themselves and their contributions that they've made. And I don't intend to list the many organizations and people they've helped over the years, but I'm going to name a few. But I think many of you would be familiar with their efforts to support schools, Peel Memorial Hospital, the Volunteer Fire Department, Scouts Canada, providing vegetable plants for the Community Garden Program, supporting and volunteering in picking and packaging, supporting regeneration, supplier and supporter of Brampton Horticultural, and many other horticultural societies, to name only a few. When the MoCons are asked to help, they help. And in the end, the policy says significant contributions are in the discretion of you. And I would just say that the quiet, often unacknowledged contributions of Jim and Louisa MoCon, in my opinion, are precisely the kind of individuals and citizens we're trying to recognize by a program of naming a street or a park. So I'm just repeating the ask that the street name registry add the name MoCon, and that the park be named Santos MoCon Park.
Thank you, Mr. Davis, for that delegation. I have Councillor Keenan first up on the board.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank Mr. Davis for coming in and giving that delegation, and to say I couldn't agree more with you. What an amazing family and an amazing legacy they have. You know, they've been beautifying our city for quite some time with their amazing flowers. I personally have been buying flowers there for over 10 years to make this patio at our restaurant look amazing. But it's so much more than that. It's what they've done for the community. It's a true testament to the people that they are. And, you know, even though we are going to be sad to see the greenhouses go, and, you know, a new development coming in, they were always upfront and honest about what was happening there. And they had, you know, the community's interest in heart when they decided to do what they did with the property. And for that, I appreciate that, and I know the residents in the area appreciate that. And I would be extremely happy to support this and to refer it to staff for next steps. So I just want to say fully supportive, and thank you so much for your delegation. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Keenan, and Mayor Brown, you're up next.
Yes, so did Councillor Keenan just move the motion to reflect both the park and the street naming perfect? I think, sorry? Okay, maybe a referral, can we add the referral to request it? What is the deadline? And maybe to Commissioner Ganesh, knowing that the streets have to be designated, as Neil Davis said, what timetable are we dealing with?
Through the chair, through to you, Mayor Brown, I don't have that information with me right now.
Maybe it could be that this reports back before the designations of the roads, so that so this can be acted on.
Through the chair, through to Mayor Brown, we'll take that as direction and work with alacrity to bring it back.
Okay, to the clerk, do we need that wording added in? And just like Councillor Keenan said, obviously we want to celebrate your histories and contributions in Brampton, well known. the love you put into our city, and we certainly want to reflect that. I think remembering our history is important, and so I'm happy to second Councillor Keenan's motion, and to have Neil Davis here as your advocate, as someone that knows our city history better than almost anyone. So you've got a very eloquent and articulate advocate, and happy to support this as well and make sure that we achieve this before the time barriers that may be before us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. I see the Mocon family is very emotional. I see Mama Mocon there. Clearly means a lot to you, and I'm glad to see you have the support here on council. And with that, Councillor Medeiros, you're up next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I think I echo the comments of my colleagues. I personally have had the opportunity to get to know the Mocon family and everything they've contributed, and certainly when you have someone of the status of Mr. Neil Davis to be here and advocate on their behalf, it really speaks volumes. And just thinking about when the Brampton Excelsiors were here and now having the Mocons, it really speaks to the rich tradition and our heritage in Brampton. And it's sometimes, disappointing that we don't get to share these stories. So a park naming, a street naming, I think are so significant for us to, capture that heritage. And just as an aside, of someone of Portuguese Canadian heritage, to see all the contributions, especially from Louisa's, notwithstanding the Mocon family, but thank you, Louisa. I know, she's been great in terms of whenever, supporting nonprofits, organizations, just very thoughtful in the way that she conducts herself, her and her husband, just amazing people. So I'm happy to, if Councillor Keenan agrees, I'm happy to move it along with him, and just thank you very much for everything you've done for Brampton. And this is just I think a small recognition, but hopefully when we open the park, Mayor Brown, that we can do really do a promotion to really, so people understand the importance of the Mocon greenhouse. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros, and Councillor Vicente.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Bill, for coming here today, Neil. And we all know, of course, the Mocons and the contributions that they've been made. And as I was listening to you talk about this ask and the history of the family, as a member of the Heritage Board here, I kind of got caught up also thinking about it, because history is written today as well. And the legacy that we leave now is for the generations of tomorrow. And understanding that this is a referral, but I would suggest if members of committee were open to the idea, I'd be happy to move that we suspend the procedural bylaw on this matter and vote on it today. And that would be my motion.
I think, yeah, Madam Clerk could actually advise on that.
At the discretion of committee, you may pass a motion on a 2/3 majority vote that is not within the confines of the procedure bylaw at this point.
Okay, yeah, I think so. He's good.
So we know it's done.
Would be moving the motion.
Move the motion, Councillor Vicente?
Councillor Vicente's moving the motion. Give us a second while we add it on here. And while Madam Clerk's doing that, I have a very small story to share with Mocon. I remember my sister's wedding, and my dad and mom called me off the hook because as the son of the family, I forgot to do one thing out of the million things I was assigned. And part of that was to get flowers and planters for that day. And I remember rushing there with a pickup truck, loading everything I could load from you guys. And I don't know I can't remember who was the person helping me out there, but they were so kind enough to give me the holders, like the big stands, to put it on, just on a handshake promise that I'm going to bring it back next day, because you don't typically rent them out, they're just for display. But you really, really saved me that day from being disowned by my family. So thank you so much for that. Yes, and after we do this, let's take a picture with the family as well. Okay, so we have the motion on the screen, and to add this, we would require a 2/3 vote. Okay.
So do we have the 2/3?
Right, do we have the 2/3 to vote on this? You see everybody does. And motion moved as seen on the screen here. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, this motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Neil, good job. Tough crowd.
Tough crowd.
Marlon,
I was going to say,
do you know?
early 1900 Man Cup.
Oh,
Winning
really?
team, Excelsior team.
Thank you, everyone. This is such a good news story today. And with that, we have our next delegation item 6.6, delegation from George Shepherdley, Chair, and Bob Trombley, Co-Chair of South Central Regional Games, Ontario Seniors Game Association, Brampton District 19, regarding request for financial support for South Central Region 55+ games on September 11, 2024. Welcome, George and Bob, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Good morning. We're here on the recommendation of Councillor Vicente, who I met at the Senior Council earlier in the month, and he recommended I come along here. Bob and I are both on the 55+ games committee. Bob is actually the chair in District 19. There are 36 districts in, as you can see up on the slideshow, there are 36 districts in Ontario, and we're 19, Mississauga is 20, Halton is 21, and so on and so forth. If you are in our games and you win medals and you win gold, you're entitled to go into the provincial games, which are held, last year they were held in Brantford in the summer and Orillia in the winter. And you'll see this, the different events will come up on the slideshow as to where we, there we go. This is actually the south, okay, I'm gonna get into this in a minute. So having been to the provincial games, they're held every other year. So in the meantime, the even year, which is 2024, we have what we call regional games. So we have the districts you see up there, North York, Scarborough, Toronto, East York, Etobicoke, York, Brampton. Brampton includes North Peel and Dufferin, and then Mississauga, Halton, Hamilton, Wentworth. Niagara, unfortunately, sort of dropped out of the picture, but they would be invited if they had people there. Okay, so we're all under the umbrella of the Ontario Senior Games Association, And each member that plays in the games from each district has to pay $15, which is a very, very small sum. This means that we're all insured if we're in an accident. And the provincial government also supports the Ontario Senior Games Association with a certain amount of money for their staff, for a bit of advertising, etc. So we're going to hold the regional games in Brampton on September the 11th. And there are certain costs associated with this, obviously. And one of the costs, or the major cost, is the rental of a senior center, Bob Callahan Senior Center, and the Save Max. The cost to us will be generally about $2,000. So we're asking council if they could waive the cost for that on that particular day, or give us funding which will cover that plus a little bit extra. Because we have to buy medals. We have a banquet in the evening, which we would need a bit of money for. So the 6 games that we're offering at the South Central Games will be golf, tennis, badminton, euchre, cycling, and pickleball. And talking of badminton, Vanna, who's here, won a gold in the Canada Games in Kamloops. Was it last year? Last year. And so if you get a gold in the provincial games, you can then go forward to the Canada Games. And Vanna and I again went to New Brunswick, and Vanna got a silver in badminton, and I got 2 silver medals in the cycling. That's basically my pitch, and these are the summer activities up here on the top there, and then if you go up to the next slide. There was Aurelia. You can see how many participants they had in Aurelia. 1,000. This is in the winter, remember, and they had to have 300 volunteers. We're only holding 6 sports, so therefore we will not need as many volunteers, but we were still looking for volunteers to help out. Okay, next slide, please. And these are the winter activities. Skiing is pretty well out. Ice hockey, we are sending 2 teams to Quebec City this year to go in the Canada Games, as far as ice hockey goes. Curling is, that sort of died in Brampton. A lot of these sports have died. Our membership has dropped from about 1,200 down to about 400. But we're trying to get people more active, get them out by bringing up the numbers if we can. Okay, and my last slide, we're looking for sponsorship. Well, I'm going to be using this slideshow to try and raise some money through sponsors. Next slide, please. And that's it. That's me, George Shepherdly. Okay, Bob?
Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you, George and Bob, for that delegation. I have Councillor Vicente first up on the board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Bob and George, for coming here today. I'm glad we had the opportunity to connect, and as one of the members on council who sits with the Seniors Council, we, of course, you know very well that we support seniors activities, and the mayor spoke very eloquently just before about the importance of activity, et cetera, and our support on this council for seniors to be able to enjoy our recreation centers at no cost, et cetera. I would ask that we refer this to staff, and asking that staff work together with these 55 plus games organizers to see what opportunities there are, whether it's fees or use of facilities, et cetera. And so I would ask for that dialogue to occur between staff and you, George and Bob, so that we could come up with ways in which this city can support the games and make them as successful as possible this September.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Vicente. And before we have the motion up there, just want to say thank you once again. I remember fondly volunteering for the Canada 55 Plus games.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, if I can make some time out, I'd love to come volunteer again for these games. But I was going to ask, how does somebody, if they wanted to participate in the games as an athlete, how are they able to sign up?
Sorry?
There's two ways you can sign up.
Sure.
You can sign up at the senior center.
Yeah.
Or you can sign up online on the OSGA website.
Okay, I'm gonna pass that information. The mayor's chief of staff, he was asking me, he's 55 plus and he wants to participate in some of these games. I'm gonna give him that information as well, and I think maybe he can help out with some sponsorship as well. So seeing that, if the council, I have the motion moved by Councillor Vicente on the floor to be referred to staff to work with event organizers to identify potential options for support. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, and that motion carries. Thank you once again for coming out.
Thank you.
Our next delegation item is 6.7, delegation from David Gross, Director for Funds Procurement, Rennisdale Investment Private Canada Limited, regarding procurement of funds for Brampton projects.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I might make a personal comment here. I've never seen so much genuine concern for the people that have come up here than you folks have. It's almost bordering on love, and I really appreciate it. Through no means of my own, and I can only give God the glory for this, but I go between a large European bank. You probably would have heard of it if I could mention it, but I can't. And what this bank does, it gives money to different projects worldwide, usually money in third world countries and so forth. And the extent of this funding for projects is not small. We have one, because of political reasons, the funding is stuck in the UAE at the moment, but it's the need for the country in particular is like $2.65 billion, so it's not a small amount of funding. And I was thinking, as I live just down the street here, Brampton's got all kinds of projects going on. Projects that would be capable of using this type of funding, okay? The problem is that a government organization cannot receive it because that's just one of the bylaws of the bank. But a corporation, nonprofit, profit, or even a personal corporation that would be valued at 130 million US dollars, which is about 180 million Canadian, they can come forth and be like a middle person. So let's say, for instance, that I wanted to get funding for Brampton, and a lot of these people that come up here need funding. And by the numbers that I deal with, usually this is just a drop in the bucket. But you have highways and streets and hospitals. You have got all kinds of things that need money. And it does not necessarily have to come from the tax dollar. In fact, in my way of looking at things, it's going to be interesting if you could get this funding and drop the taxes, which everybody would be surprised at. And I'm not suggesting you do that. I'm just saying that it's kind of neat that you could do it. So the thing is that I need to have a personal interview with the mayor himself, Mayor Brown, because the things that we would talk about would come under a non-disclosure and it can't be like just publicly disseminated. And what his job, quote unquote, would be is to contact certain large businesses that would be in the purview of what the bank allows. And it sounds easy, but it's not necessarily difficult. And get me an appointment with the CEO of that business, okay? And once I explain that, the projects to the business, then I would also tell them that this is for a Canadian effort, not just for their own business. And right now there's a large business right within a half an hour of here that needs funding. And I read this online a couple of weeks ago. So he would go and say, you need to talk to this guy, meaning me, give him my name and phone number, and then I would go and make arrangements to see them, show them how it worked. If they went for it, I would at the same time say, now, Brampton needs X amount of dollars, whether it's for the highway, whatever it's for. And I would get that through Mayor Brown. And the thing is that when I know what kind of money is needed, I can put together a package for these people that they would offset all of that money that's needed without going to the tax dollar, okay? And the thing is that once this starts happening and people start seeing what can be done in Brampton, I've been here for 10 years, 6 years, just down the street, as I said before, but in Brampton, then there's a different kind of a life that could come here because you don't have to run for, well, how are we going to pay for this or whatever? Do we raise taxes? Do we do this? However, I don't know how it's done, but the thing is that you could take money from these type of things, which there are no upfront fees and there are no ongoing costs to it. That's the nice thing about it, because when I approach, or usually people approach me, but when I go back to them and tell them how this works, it's almost too good to be true, but when they learn the bank that's sponsoring this, then it resolves itself. All the questions resolve themselves. Now, I've tried to give you as much information as I can. I'm sure there are questions, but if you have any, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, David, for your delegation. Seeing I don't have any questions on the board, I would ask if Councillor Power would move the motion to receive the delegation from David.
Okay, and I would also ask if it would be possible to set up some type of an appointment with you, sir, that we could go further on this thing, because I could divulge more under a non-disclosure than I do right now.
I'm happy to have a meeting set up, and we'll bring the chair of our Economic Development Committee, Councillor Tour, to that meeting as well.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And with that, I have a motion moved by Councillor Power to receive this delegation. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. The motion carries. I think we have the added delegation. Added delegation item number 6.8 from Sylvia Roberts regarding item 10.2.2 staff report for 2023 year-end reserve report. We have Sylvia's here. And with that, I guess we can also move up the item 10.2.2 and deal with it at the same time. Thank you. Welcome, Sylvia.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Roberts. I'm a resident of Ward 3. So, as some of you may know, the different hydro corporations used to be individual. At one point, there was a hydro in Brampton, and then the city of Brampton decided to sell it. Most of the other municipalities nearby merged them into Electra, and as the proceeds of that, there was $200 million. The reason this is relevant is that $200 million was the seed money for two of the major reserves on here. There was $100 million, there's two different accounts that each had $100 million. And since then, in the past 5 years, we have seen it go from around $200 million to, I think, not counting the IOUs, works out to $9.5 million is what the report said. And then there's another 50 million, low 50 millions that will be refunded later in terms of repayment. So one of the questions is, what steps are we taking to replenish the funds, because it's beneficial to the city for when we have very large projects that we have this pool of money internally and we don't need to go on the market for that. And then a related concern is on the overall financials for our surpluses, we have them go into our state of good repair stuff, and that's important, but there's a structural problem in that in order to keep track with the longer term expenses, the city's own reports have previously said, well, so we're going to need over $2.6 billion to spend over the next 10 years, and we can come up with 1.4, and we'll figure it out for fixing the infrastructure later. And so individually, like with this budget, more than 100% of the city's surplus is from Brampton Transit, and that's basically how it has been. Brampton Transit, the assumption is Brampton Transit is going to continue to run over capacity and generate surpluses that way. And that is going to balance the books, and then we're going to put the rest into our state of good repair and try to fix that. But that amount doesn't grow, but the amount we need to spend on the infrastructure does. So every year, our gap keeps getting larger for other reserves, for like infrastructure levy that funds that. And so the question is, how are we going to fund that and ensure there are adequate resources? Because this year, I'm sure the 2025 budget is going to balance, and the next year too. But in 2030, then we're going to start to run into issues because that money that we should have been setting aside, it's the 2% for the infrastructure levy that we were supposed to get. It's like, okay, I get it, 2021, there was the pandemic, so we didn't do that. And that's fair. And then the next year, we also didn't do the full amount. And then the next year, last year, I think we added, what was it, $1 million between the infrastructure levy and that, but the amount that we were projected as part of our long-term financial planning is, it should have been $15 million. So it's just $15 million, and so the surplus from Brampton Transit can patch that up. But the problem is that $15 million was supposed to be built into the base budget, and so over 10 years, that's $150 million. And so what happens is, it's $15 million here and $15 million there, but structurally, you do that for 1 year, and that's $150 million missing from the longer term stuff. And then the next year, there's another $15 million short, and that's another $150 million over that year and the following 9 years. And we start to run into serious structural problems because it turns out $15 million that should have gone into reserves, we can figure that out. But we run into a longer term situations where an individual thing quickly turns into $100 million or more, and $100 million here, $100 million there, that starts to add up to serious money. And we don't have the capacity. And yes, I know I have 45 seconds. And so when we see the longer term financials, will we start to see the return of that so we can make sure that our reserves are in good shape, not for just 2023, but for future years, and will we see the return of it showing how much money we need to spend over a 10-year forecast and how much we're actually doing, so council knows how much they need to raise it and what are the consequences, what are the projects, the road resurfacings that don't get done, the massive capital projects that we want to do that we can't. We run into the situation of the CA Center, there's no money. Other major transit projects we might run into, there's no money. Those are my questions, and that is my delegation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. I don't see any questions on the board from the councillors. So with that, I'll have a motion moved by Mayor Brown to receive your delegation. I think with that, we can move the receipt of item 10.2.2 as well in the same motion. So all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you, and that motion carries. Just looking to see our next item. Our next item is item 9.2.1, staff report regarding economic development memorandums of understanding was held by Councilor Medeiros, and you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The question that I have, so when I look at the MOUs and I understand there's a business focus, what I sort of comes to mind is we, for example, recognize, for example, the arts sector as an important economic tool here in Brampton. Yet our MOUs seem to be really focused on those sectors. So I guess my question to you, because I know previously we had sister agreements. For example, there was one with in the Azores with the island there. There was, I think, there was expression of interest from a place in Punjab, a city there as well. And then after, there was also some interest from the capital of Nepal, from, through the Nepalese community. And my sort of concern when I read this, and not concern, is that it's almost that when we're focusing on these areas, it's sort of contradictory to what we say internally about how important art and culture is for us at the city, because I don't see it reflected in the MOU. And it's not a knock on you, I just think it's maybe an oversight, or is this something that maybe, I'd like to refer this to staff to maybe have a consideration and come back with, if council agrees, obviously, because I'll tell you from experience when I'm in other cities and so on, and you see, for example, you get sort of art exchanges or student exchanges or so on. Some of that sort of spillover are economic opportunities that come out of it. So a student that's come to Brampton from some other country when he was 17, 18 years old, when he's looking at investing or professionally, years later, Brampton's on his map. And, through you, Mr. Chair, I remember with Sister Agreements, I remember arguing on the floor when we replaced it back in previous terms. One of the things I found that we could do a better job in sort of exploring and leveraging was our diaspora that we have in Brampton, because we clearly say, we have significant amount of languages, great culture, and that puts us front of the line when we want to sort of make business introductions. So, I just think that there's a lost opportunity here, that I would like to refer this back to staff to come back with consideration of art and cultural component. Understandably, one of the sort of dilemmas is going to be you might be a victim of your own success, because all of a sudden we have too many MOUs to be able to administer. So that could be a sort of discussion for council and something that we can refer to the budget. So I would like to, I don't know if you want to provide any comment on that, if there is a rationale behind it that I'm not familiar with, just maybe.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Councillor Medeiros, for the feedback. The content of the MOUs, it does include cultural aspects as well. I think back to last summer when we signed with the St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Very much there is a cultural exchange. So we can definitely come back with a report to outline some of the ways that we are recognizing the cultural aspects. You're definitely preaching to the choir. Our team is really passionate about culture, and having worked closely with Kelly Stahl and team over the years, we have that lens, and that is definitely an advantage in our investment attraction work.
So through you, Mr. Chair, then in terms of processing, for me to understand, because the 3 previous agreements that I was sort of more involved in, is this something that I should sort of bring to the table, bring to your attention? Is there a process that, if we have a city that's interested through one of our do we bring it here to council? Like, how would you advise on the process?
Through the chair, Councillor Medeiros, yes, we previously had the Global Partnership Alliance. It was a little bit too strict on the requirements. Having MOUs has provided us much more flexibility for this international work, and we would be pleased to look at any of the opportunities that you brought previously or you continue to bring forward.
Okay, so through you, Mr. Chair, then referral is not required if we already have that aspect of arts and culture already encompassed. Then it's just a question of, I guess, putting forth some cities who've shown interest and let staff prepare a report. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Medeiros. So seeing that, if we can have the original motion here back on the screen again. And we'll have that motion moved by Councillor Medeiros. We have the point 2 back up there again. Okay, thank you. You see the motion on the screen, moved by Councillor Medeiros. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none. Thank you, and that motion carries. Thank you, Councillor Medeiros.
Thank you.
The only items remaining under the sections are item 12.3.2 and added item 12.3.3 for the mayor.
Okay, so that's the next item we're going to deal with is 12.3.2, discussion item at the request of Mayor Brown regarding rental fees for the Ontario Police Memorial Fund Ball Hockey Tournament at Century Gardens. Mayor Brown, you have the floor.
Yeah, happy to speak to that. Representatives of the Police Organizing Committee came in. They have organizing a memorial fundraiser for fallen officers, and they've a tentative booking for Century Gardens on days that it's not used. So these are weekdays during the day. It doesn't take away from our times that are booked in the evening and the weekends, and I thought this would be a great way to support them. They came in and asked how the city could support this initiative, and I would love for us to do so. So if we could waive the rental fees knowing that it's not something we're losing, it's during the day on a weekday.
Thank you, Mayor Brown. And we have that motion moved by Mayor Brown that the fees be waived. Okay, motion as seen on the screen, moved by Mayor Brown. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion carries. Madam Clerk, do we go to the referred matters list after?
If we can just take questions associated with section 12.
Sure. Are there any questions from members of council regarding this section? Seeing none, public question period. Are there any questions from members of the public on this section?
We have none received online.
Okay. Perfect. Seeing that we have none, we'll move on to referred matters list. Do any members have any questions or comments regarding referred matters list? Seeing none, we will move on to the public question period. We'll ask the clerk if there are any questions submitted for this meeting today.
Relating to the whole of the agenda, I have received none online. If there are any in room? And seeing none.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Our next item is closed session business. Item to deal with item 15.1. I have a motion moved by Councillor Broad to move into closed session to deal with the following items. Item 15.1, open meeting exception under Section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act 2001, labor relations or employee negotiations matters. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, thank you. That motion carries. And how much time would we need, Madam Clerk?
10 minutes.
Thank you. We will meet in closed session at 11:10. Okay, thank you. And as a result of our closed session today, I wish to report the following. Item 5.1, this item was discussed in closed session and information was received and no direction was given. Item 15.2, this item was approved on consent and was not discussed in closed session. Our last item of business is item 16, adjournment. Committee is next scheduled to meet June 5th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. I have a motion moved by Councillor Power to adjourn today's meeting. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned.